Today's learning target is I can express percents as fractions and fractions as percents. Today we're going to be working on writing percents as fractions. Now when we take the word percent, there's two parts to it. We have per and cent, which means 100. So it's per 100. It's like a ratio. So in this case we have 60%. So another way to say that would be 60 per 100. Okay, so there we have this now written as a fraction. But whenever we do these, we want to put them in simplest form. So now that I'm ready to simplify this, I take a look and I see that these two each end in 0. And I know that when I divide a number by 10, it just takes away the 0 at the end of the number. So now I'm left with 6/10, and I can divide each of those by, let's see, if I divide each by 2, I get 3/5, and that would be in simplest form. Now, if I have a percent that has a fraction in it, like this, 12.5%, there's one of two ways I can solve that. The first way I'm going to show you, you can use if you have a fraction that can be written as a decimal that does not repeat, doesn't go on forever. So 12.5 I know can be written as 12.5, and that's percent, so per 100. So it's written like that. Now, I want to get rid of this decimal right here. So to do that, I know that if I times a number by 10, it moves the decimal one place to the right. So this 12.5 becomes 125. Okay, now, if I do that to the numerator, I have to do that to the denominator. And 100 times 10 would be 1,000. And now I need to simplify. If I divide both those by 125, I would get 1/8. You'll be able to use calculators for this chapter, but remember, you still want to show all of your work. Okay, so use the calculator, but show your work. The second way that I'm going to show you how to change a percent to a fraction will work for any percent that you have. In this case, I have 5/7, and that's a repeating decimal. So I have to use this way anytime I come across a repeating decimal. So I can't write 5/7 as a decimal because it repeats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 10 5/7 percent. Okay, there's 10 5/7, and percent means per 100. Now I've written it as a fraction. Now remember, a fraction line really just means divided by. So this problem here is the same as 10 5/7 divided by 100. That's what that fraction is showing. Now we solved problems like this earlier in the year. We know the first thing we want to do is get this mixed number into an improper fraction. So that's going to give me 75/7. And if you remember, dividing fractions gets really messy. So what we did is we said instead of dividing, we can multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, and the reciprocal is the flip. Okay, the other way we talked about it was we keep the first, we change the sign, and we flip the KCF. And once I've done that, now I'm ready to just multiply going across. But the first thing I want to do is simplify. See, there's 75 here and 100 there. I can divide both those by 25 and I get 3 and 4. And now when I multiply across, I get 3/28, and that's my fraction for that percent. Here I'm dealing with a percent that's less than 1%. So to do that, I'm going to go and do it the same way that I just did it before. So I'm going to put this 8/10 percent would mean per 100. And now, just like I did before, I don't want to have a decimal in there. So if I were to times 8/10 by 10, I would get 8. And I know that if I do that to the numerator, I have to do that to the denominator. So I get 8/1000. And when I simplify and divide those both by 8, I get 1/125. In this problem here, I'm dealing with a percent that's greater than 100%. Now, the first thing I have to do when I have a percent like this is figure out how many wholes I have. Now, I know that 100% is the same as one whole, 200% would be 2 wholes, 300% 3 wholes. So in this case, 175%. Okay, well 100% is 1 whole, and I have 75 per 100. So that's how I would write that as a fraction. Now I simplify that, and I get 1 3/4. If we're asked to write fractions as percents, okay, remember percent means per 100. So what I need to do is I need to get the denominator here to 100. So I want to make an equivalent fraction that would be in 100ths. Okay, so this would be, in order to do that, I could times the denominator by 25, because 4 times 25 would get me 100. So I have to do that to the numerator, and I would get 25 100ths. So once I do that, that's the same as 25 per 100. So that's 25%. If I have an improper fraction like this, first thing I like to do is write it as a mixed number. So I know that 6/5 is equal to 1 1/5. Now remember, each whole is worth 100%. So that's going to be 100%. So now I just need to figure out 1/5 as 100ths. So to do that, I would times this by 20, and then I would times this by 20, and I'm going to get 20 100ths. So I'm going to get the 100% here, so 120% would be my percentage there. Alright, so I'm going to show you one other way where we can write a fraction as a percent, and that's using a calculator. So here we have 14, and remember the fraction sign means divided by 16. So when I divided this out, here's the decimal that I got, 875 thousandths, and now I want to change that decimal to a percent. Now this is just like when you calculate your percentage that you got on a test. Okay, you got 14 out of 16 right. Here's your decimal, and now to change that to a percent, we know we times the decimal by 100. And when we times by 100, that moves the decimal 2 places to the right. So in this case, that would be 87 5/10%.